Free agency is complete. The NFL draft is over, and now we turn our attention to roster construction for the Carolina Panthers. Today, I'm here to walk you through two players that are fan favorites that may not be here in 2025. Let's go.
Brace yourself for the ultimate Carolina Panthers experience. Welcome to Two Growls, One Roar, the podcast that hits harder than a Luke Kuechly tackle. We're diving deep into the heart of Panther Nation, bringing you unrivaled passion, insider takes, and pure gridiron fire. From Wilmington to the cosmos, this is your home for the fiercest football talk east or west of Charlotte.
The competition out there, keeping guys fresh, having a healthy rotation, not only on the outside, but also on the inside. So just our D-line group as a whole, just keeping those guys fresh and be able to play, stay healthy. It's a long season. So to be able to add these two guys into that mix, it's going to help everybody out.
Just to be clear, Jadeveon, you do plan on keeping him. What are you saying?
No, we're still working through the roster. We're still talking through things. Obviously, we're focused on the draft right now and what's in front of us.
Welcome in, folks, to another edition of the Two Growls, One Roar podcast. I appreciate you guys tuning in, as always. If you're here and you're watching on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button. If you're listening or watching on Spotify, make sure you follow the show. Give me a 5-star review. Same thing on Apple Podcasts, folks. Please. There's a lot of guys that follow this and girls. A lot of y'all. I was trying to say guys, but a lot of y'all folks that are awesome. I just need you to help me grow. That's all I have to do. Like, comment, subscribe. Anyways, enough of that madness. Let's get into what we want to talk about today, which is the hot seat in Carolina. Now, the hottest seat in Carolina is none other than Ejiro Evero, the defensive coordinator. But we're not here to talk about him today. That'll be a whole nother episode when we can go into storylines that we can anticipate for the 2025 season. Now, one storyline that's here and present and absolutely a thing is the story around two players on the Carolina Panthers that may not be here for the 2025 season, at least not in Carolina. And I think it's important to talk about these guys, and I'm going to walk you through a scenario on both sides of why they may not be here and why they could be. I want you to know, in general, I like both of these guys, and I think we should keep them here in Carolina. But without further ado, you guys probably know who we're talking about. And to be honest, it would actually be good to hear who you think is on the hot seat. Now, I'm not getting into the world of like DJ Johnson, Amari Barno, or the number 8 or 9 offensive linemen. I'm trying to look at starters who are here that may be cut, waived, traded, whatever it happens. And folks, it is none other than Jadeveon Clowney and Adam Thielen. You look at the additions, and we're going to talk through both, but you look at the additions that the Panthers did via free agency. You look at what they did in the draft. They've added a lot of competition and, no pun intended, but a lot of pressure to the outside linebacker room, and it's a fantastic thing. Now, like I said, we'll talk through both sides of why I think Clowney should be here, but I'll also make a case of why, if this is it, the Panthers could decide to move on. I think you got to look at it from both ways. I don't like to side one way or the other. I like to present both and let you guys make a decision. Same thing can be said about Adam Thielen, who battled a significant injury last year, but still was the top receiver on the team in limited amount of production. He's been Bryce Young's security blanket his first 2 years in the NFL. And I don't want to push him away either. But, you think about the Panthers, they did give him more money. That's the other thing about this. Both of these guys, we're going to talk about their contracts, but Adam Thielen did get a nice pay bump and some things worked out in his favor. But then the Panthers go out, they draft 2 wide receivers. Now, the 2 wide receivers they drafted, or at least Tedero McMillan is your X, your number 1. He's not going to be playing the slot, really. Could play the slot a little bit, but that's not his primary position. Adam Thielen's going to play the slot. Jimmy Horn Jr., maybe some slot. You also have Jalen Coker. But the latest addition that impacts Adam Thielen, in my opinion, is the addition of Hunter Renfrow. Now, we don't know what Hunter Renfrow is going to look like. We have no idea if he's ready, if he can take Adam Thielen's seat. But all these things adding up apply pressure, especially when the Panthers need to address a few more things at the safety position as well as cornerbacks. I think they've got a few gaps, maybe even linebacker. Why not go ahead and bring back Shaq Thompson? But that's for another day. That's not for this episode. Now, we're going to talk about why out of the two of these guys, I would put my money on Jadeveon Clowney potentially having the hottest seat right now between these two. So Dan Morgan on the Panthers roster, when he was asked about Jadeveon Clowney's future, and his response was, we're still working through the roster. We're still talking through things. Obviously, we're focused on the draft right now and what's in front of us. That was with the addition of course, Scorton and Uman Thielen. Panthers, and that's before we even talk about Patrick Jones also being added to the mix. Now, I do think Clowney was one of the bright spots of the Panthers. With that said, I do think he's at a point in his career and age-wise where it maybe makes a little more sense for him to be in a rotation and to really not be your number one starter dominant guy. Really good against the run. There's a lot of positives about Jadeveon Clowney's game, but let's get into it a little bit more. You go out here, and it may be a little bit harder for you guys to see that, so I apologize. But we do have Jadeveon Clowney's stats pulled up here from this past season and for his entire career, to be exact. It was one of the lower producing seasons, but in all honesty, when you look at his career trajectory, he's never been a big sack guy. Like, we knew that. His production or his defense and his purpose has really been against the run. That's why people have brought him in. That's why we brought him in. His best career year was last year in 2 years ago in 23 with the Ravens, where he had 9.5 sacks, but that whole defense was stout. Tied that with his 2017 campaign with the Houston Texans. He's not a double-digit sack guy. To get 5.5 sacks from a defense that was as bad as it was is a bright spot. He's also very good against the run. That's one of the things that I know we've talked about. In his first year with Carolina, he played in 14 games, or roughly one more than that. Wait, what we got here? I didn't get the game stats. Anyways, he registered 5.5 sacks, 9 tackles for loss, 22 assists, and 46 combined tackles. PFF assigned him, honestly, respectable grades. Overall grade of 70, a pass rushing grade of 73, which was 30th among edge, and a run defense grade of 63. He generated 44 pressures, 33 hurries, 5 quarterback hits, and 346 pass rush attempts. Also played the run 255 snaps. I will tell you, I went back and I've been watching a lot of the games, but I watched bits and pieces of the game against the Atlanta Falcons. And there was one play early in that game. He got pushed back far, folks. Like probably a good 6, 7, 8, 9 yards off the ball. And I know that isn't everything, but it doesn't mean that he's bad. That happens. You lose reps, but I could see why the Panthers maybe are taking a mental note of some of these reps. Now that's him. That's like, we've got a whole bunch of other issues that are being addressed. So maybe that's one of the smaller ones out of this list. But you do wonder. When we look at the cap numbers for him, about $13.75 million cap hit for the team, around the 5th highest. He's owed $10 million, a base salary of 8.52, roster game bonus of 1.25, and workouts bonus of 200. Dead cap, if he's cut or traded, $6 million from the prorated signing bonus. And then as far as cap savings, if you cut him before June 1st, about 7.7. Post is 7.7. You will have some dead money that's tied into that, but you could free up a decent amount of money, and money that you could position elsewhere in a, safety or cornerback. So I think that's why this is still on the table. But we talk about in general, as far as like, this is the home. We talk about Hunter Renfrow's homecoming. This is Jadeveon Clowney's homecoming. He was the number 1 pick, of course, played at South Carolina, from South Carolina. In his first season, very productive. I mean, we talked about some of the stats here just a second ago. I think there's still juice in the tank. Now, he is older. I don't know that I want him as our number 1 guy on the defensive side of the ball, or at least our number 1 outside linebacker. But unless he just shows you a big drop in his production, and or you just don't see it gelling out as you're going through practice this summer and into the fall, I think the Panthers should strongly consider bringing him back. Not to mention the veteran presence and leadership. And that's what he gives. That's what Clowney gives, and that's what Adam Thielen can give. I think 2 veteran leaders with a bunch of young guys around them that you can coach up, that you can talk through how to be a professional, how to work on your game, how to work on your craft. So I am in favor of it. But all that to say, we can go back here just a few slides later and see Dan Morgan's thought process. Now, I personally think people throw Clowney's name up only because of the money that's owed. If we're talking about true competition, you really got to look at the end with Barno, with DJ Johnson, and a few other guys that are on the end of this. Not so much, in my opinion, with Clowney. That's just how I see it from here. So then we'll talk final takes between Clowney and Thielen and where they sit. Now, Adam Thielen, extremely productive. I mean, we know his rise with the Minnesota Vikings. That's where he spent the majority of his career. That's where he took off. Panthers signed him back in the offseason of 2023. Hey, we got this new weapon. I don't think anyone expected him to be a 1,000-yard receiver. First time he achieved 1,000 yards since 2018. And before that, he did it in 2017. But only 3 times in his career. He had a big gap of, 4 years in between 1,000-yard seasons. But he was the security blanket that Bryce Young needed. He was the guy that was always open. The chemistry that these guys developed, it was known. And we could see it even last year when healthy. You think about when Adam Thielen got hurt. And I know that wasn't Bryce, but you think about when Adam Thielen got hurt against the Raiders, how he was just laying out, going for the ball to make a play. Think about the late season touchdown that wasn't a touchdown. There was a lot of crucial moments on 4th down where Bryce Young knows where he's going with the ball. It wasn't Adam Thielen telling him to throw it to him or anything like that. Like, they just had the chemistry. That's the biggest reason I'm a fan of it. Adam Thielen still gets open. He's still got reliable hands. He can still catch the football. And so I'm not a fan of pushing him away. And again, we talked about him as a leader in the wide receiver room as well. His contract's a little bit different. Still $10 million, around the 7th highest on the team. Owed about 8.7 in cash with a base of 6.2, roster bonus 1.5 per game, 440. Get the workout bonus of 250. A dead cap if he's cut or traded is like 8.5 with some restructuring and signing bonus elements to that. There's not much cap savings when talking about, getting Adam Thielen out compared to Jadeveon Clowney, primarily because of the dead cap years or the additional add-on years that are part of Adam Thielen's contract. So as far as giving him more money, they added on voided years in 26 and 27, and we know he'll be a free agent in 26. Gives him a chance to, more than likely he's going to retire after this year. So for me, it's honestly a similar talk track when we talk about Adam Thielen. I don't think, unless he's just showing you that he doesn't have it and he's struggling. He chose to come back. We know that. He chose to come back because of Bryce Young. We heard the parade of commentary that happened this offseason since the season ended, Super Bowl, all that stuff, like during those media events and things that were happening. It all tied back to Bryce Young and what he saw in Bryce Young, what he believes in this team, the culture, the things that are being built here. And I think it's turning a corner. And so if you're a team that's where you are today, I don't know why you'd want to try to get rid of someone like that, and especially your quarterback's favorite target. Now, I don't think Adam Thielen should be the leading wide receiver in this room as far as yardage for next season. No. We know the ball needs to get dispersed around a little bit more. I'll be a little bit worried if we don't have Xavier Legette, Jalen Coker, Tedero McMillan, kind of closer or taking the charge over Adam Thielen. I don't know where Adam's going to fall as far as snap counts and touches or things like that, but we know he's probably going to be a pretty nice target that Bryce Young will still focus on. But I'm in a similar boat, and I also don't know the value. That's the other thing. You got to think about value with these. So if you cut them, it's fine. You're not going to get anything back. If you're one of those that thinks you're going to get something via a trade, it feels like every year some fans have wanted to trade away Adam Thielen. You're honestly not going to get that much. At this point, you may get a 7th rounder. I honestly don't even know if you would get that, if we're being honest. So we know about, I kind of talked through, also didn't realize when I was like looking at him, you think of him as a smaller slot receiver. He's still pretty big for his size, or a little bit taller than I thought. Maybe the case that you would make for wanting to move on from Adam Thielen would be the injury history, if you think that he's not going to make it through. But I think that's part of the reason the Panthers brought in Renfro. I think it's part of the reason they drafted Horn. You're adding in some additional guys. You also have David Moore in the mix as well. So for me, maybe that's the reason, but I think that's the only reason you'd want to consider it. But I still don't think the Panthers are like, hey, let's just move this guy out. Let's ship him off. After we give Bryce Young a bunch of stability, let him build some chemistry, we're going to move this guy off who chose to come back, who could have retired and didn't want to be here could have made the choice not to be here in Carolina. So we close this out with Jadeveon Clowney, Adam Thielen, and give our final takes on where this thing sits. So it's pretty clear. I think I would lean that both of these guys should be safe. But if we were in the betting world, and I don't sports bet on any apps or anything like that, but I think I would lean closer to Jadeveon Clowney. But I hope, for the sake of this thing, that it just doesn't play out, because I think both of these guys deserve to be here, finish it out, see if we can build on the momentum, the culture, the things that are here, and head into next year. So anyways, folks, that is going to do it for today's episode. This is Carolina Dad. Y'all have a good one.